I'm Elizabeth Ohlson, and I'm an artist quilter. I make Kaleidoscope quilts.
In 1816, a Scotsman named David Brewster invented the kaleidoscope. A kaleidoscope divides a circular visual field into a certain number of wedges. This number can be 6 or 8 or 12, numbers that can divide evenly into 360, the degrees of a circle. Kaleidoscopes became very popular and started being adapted by artists and designers early on. There are even some early quilts that use the kaleidoscope concept by artists such as Rebecca Scattergood. But it wasn't until 1987 that a New Yorker named Paula Nadelstern launched the idea into orbit with her series of snowflake and kaleidoscope quilts. In 2009, her artistry was rewarded with a one-person show at the American Folk Art Museum.
I first learned about kaleidoscope quilts at a workshop Paula put on at the South Shore Stitchers, and we learned how to make snowflake quilts. The Quilt Guild is very large. I think there are 125 members, so our meetings are very loud until our president calls us to order.
Very good. Okay, Elizabeth Ohlson is going to do her talk before the meeting and before snacks. And I hope everyone will be very, very quiet and respectful and listen to her. I feel like I'm talking to third graders. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate it. Elizabeth?
In 2005, you all invited Paula Nadelstern to do a workshop, which I thought was going to be a kaleidoscope workshop. That's what I signed up for. And either somebody here or Paula changed it to a snowflake workshop. And so I stayed to the program, and I made my first snowflakes. And these were different from kaleidoscopes in that we made fabric renditions of actual photographs of snowflakes. What I really wanted to learn was how to make kaleidoscope quilts, but I learned some of the techniques by attending that workshop. Then I communicated with Paula, showed her some photographs of what I had done, and asked her if she thought I could learn how to do kaleidoscopes on my own. And she said she thought I had it and I could do it, so I did it. So I'm going to show you a series of single kaleidoscopes. I guess they're actually symmetrical, so upside down doesn't really make any difference. I call this a resurrection kaleidoscope because they're Easter eggs in the corner. And this is one of the ways that Ginny Cooper helped me. I wanted to have various ways to hang them, and I made a traditional wall hanging backing with a sleeve for a rod. But she showed me to use a stretcher bar, same stretchers you use for oil paintings, and I just stapled the kaleidoscope on that. So you're great, thank you. My kaleidoscopes are octagons, which are 8 wedges that I sew together. Color is crucial to the kaleidoscope quilt making process. I like them to sing and dance. I like juxtapositions of bright colors against black. I like to do surprises in my quilts. Sometimes I do something that's very harmonious, going from reds and purples and blues to different shape of reds and purples and blues. Or I might do something completely different. I thought I'd give you a little background to show you how I got to kaleidoscope quilting. It started probably with Grandma Kroll when I was 6 years old. She taught me how to sew, not how to quilt. But Grandma Kroll put into my mind all these tapes that keep going through, you know what I mean? Like, always finish what you start, and anything worth doing is worth doing well. I didn't sew very much, except for when I was a little girl. I made all my doll clothes. And then when Katie was born, I made some clothes for her. And then when Katie's little girl, Danielle, my granddaughter, was born, I made her clothes. I didn't really start sewing again as an adult until 1990, when I went to a new church in Clarendon Hills, Illinois. And I started making banners, processional banners, and I made seasonal banners. I didn't know that I was doing this, but what I was doing was quilterly techniques that it just was required, because I layered the banners so that they'd be sturdy enough, and I put bindings on them, of course, but I didn't know they were bindings, I just edged them. And then in 2000, my sewing machine was a very old Kenmore. My husband bought me a new sewing machine called A Quilter's Dream. And when I looked at the name of it, I said to myself, I think there's a message here. I ought to learn how to quilt. I began quilting using traditional quilting methods. Originally, quilting was very utilitarian. There were these 3 layers, the top, the batting, and the backing, in order to keep people warm. But ultimately, it became a design factor as well. Then I began to explore more contemporary ideas. I use Adobe Photoshop and photograph various objects like vegetables and fruit. I print my photographs on fabric that's backed with paper so that it will go through my inkjet printer. I started with single images that were just finished off and squared, and then I made triptychs that I called trifectas. This is trifecta 3 that was accepted in the Hoffman Challenge. Hoffman is a fabric manufacturer, and I had to use the Hoffman fabric, as did all participants, and I was very fortunate to be accepted in that competition. Then I made the twin-size quilt that has 13 kaleidoscopes in it, which was very complex. They were all different sizes. I'm an ordained deacon in the Episcopal Church, recently retired. I worked at Holy Trinity Episcopal Church in Ocean City for about 12 years. I got to introduce quilting to my church community in making prayer quilts. Our prayer quilt ministry is very rewarding. We layer quilts, but we don't actually tie them together or sew them together. We leave them hanging in the hallway for people to say prayers and to tie knots that hold the quilts together ultimately. My husband died a year and a half ago. This is a prayer quilt that was given to me when Dick was very sick before he died. It had been made with these not tied, but people tied the knots and tied them into a bow and said a prayer for Dick and me. This is the completed quilt that they gave to me. I start in the beginning in the center of a wedge with a piece of symmetrical fabric. Then I build out, and every time I make a wedge, then I have to do it 8 times. And if I have the mirror image of something, like I have that twinkly there and that twinkly there, I have to do it 16 times. 8 on one side and 8 on the other side.
I'm a filmmaker, a co-alumnus of the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts, and a friend of Elizabeth Ohlson. She is a wonderful artist and a generous soul. Her husband Dick was also a wonderful guy and his sudden and totally unexpected death was devastating to Elizabeth. It was her art, her church, and her membership in a community of quilters that has enabled her to carry on. She told me, "People care about one another in my quilt guild." Elizabeth has been the recipient of that care and is paying it back.
This is what I'm entering in our quilt show this year. And there are 20, they are all 20-inch kaleidoscopes. There are 16 of them, 4 rows across and 4 down. And I love numbers, so I was going to call it Sweet 16, but it seems a little bit dopey. Maybe I should have a challenge for you all to come up with a good name for it.
Sweet 32. Yeah.
A friend of hers from the guild named Trudy came down with cancer. Elizabeth wrote, "Partly because of my diaconal training and experience, but mostly because of my close friendship with Trudy, I spent a great deal of time with her as she battled cancer and as her life came to an end. As she lay in her hospital bed, I assured her that I would finish the quilt she had started for her granddaughter's upcoming wedding. I received advice and fabric from one member, many offers of help from others. One member agreed to machine quilt it when I finished piecing it all together, and another hand-stitched the binding and label. When another member was commissioned to paint the utility box at 55th and West in Ocean City, she included our South Shore Stitchers logo and the inscription, "In memory of Trudy Wolf." As to where her imagination is leading her for her next project, Elizabeth had this to say.
I want to make this one, a single one, very large. And I've decided what I'm going to do is stop at this point. And I think I'm going to surround it with little universes.